Previously, Yuri and Tornak enjoyed the celebration that had sprung up at Ned's porthole, while Tharisian nursed a cup of water and people watched. Yuri had some conversations with a few old friends and caught up with them. Back at the keep, Keelan convinced Sean to help him with some alchemy before she went to bed for the night. On Sean's part, she was a little concerned when the ingredients he was extracting started humming, but he promised that the odds of anything exploding were very slim. Meanwhile, Taria and her father talked some more about recent events and continued catching up. Eventually, everyone who needed sleep turned in for the night to get a few hours of rest before their meeting with the Saltburn Queen later that day. Tharisian played Fantasy Uber and helped some people make it home after partying half the night. Around mid-morning, everyone gathered together to meet with the Saltburn Queen. Taria and Tornak both overslept, but Keelan went and quickly dragged them out of bed. The Saltburn Queen was a human woman who didn't wear any crown or jewels. Sean pulled on some of her past history and decorum lessons and managed to make a fairly good impression on her. The only other person with her, save for some guards, was a woman there to pour tea. The Queen started an obvious tea ceremony, one that Taria and Sean both recognized. Sean tried to telegraph what steps needed to be taken during it, but both Keelan and Tornak failed completely at realizing it. Luckily, the Queen seemed more amused than offended. Once the ceremony was finished, the Queen asked the group for information about how they'd stopped Calroth and Cassian. Sean gave her the general story of the night before, explaining that Cassian had been a shadow spawn and that they'd used a Guardians of the Veil ritual to send him away, although she didn't use any of those exact words. When Taria chimed in to use those exact words, the Queen confirmed that she was aware of the shadow spawn and the various groups that protected the world from them. She also made it clear that she was fine with magic. She then asked what exactly the group's plans were, and Sean gave her a general overview. In turn, the Queen told Sean that she had managed to get several of the northern provinces to sign on with her and agree that allowing magic in the Empire again would be for the betterment of all. The group had two options regarding where to head next. As they already knew, the Praetors were mining dark tears at the Aetherglen crater, and more shadow spawn were appearing, even though they were trying to keep it quiet. Valtrexian was also causing lots of issues. Meanwhile, the Empire was making a push into the Clear Peak province. It was believed they were searching for an item called the Blade of Veils in the Scorch Basin, one that was important to the cult of Thalakros. Sean told the Queen what the group knew about the ties between the cult of Thalakros and the Luminous, and the Queen explained that was why the Luminous wasn't allowed on her island, even though, of course, they had their ways of still sending agents there. Taria then brought up assassins, and the Queen said there was little she could do to prevent them from coming onto the island. Then she asked which assassins, and Sean reluctantly told her it was the Twin Silvers. There was an instant reaction to that bit of news. The Saltburn Queen couldn't do anything to stop them, which Sean already knew, but she said that she would look into who it was that hired them. Sean told her that she had similar plans herself. The Queen gave the group symbols to wear that would protect them all in the city, at least from non-assassins, and would also provide them with discounts on purchases. Thalrisian chimed in around that point to ask a few questions about the Waystones. He provided a little information about his background and mission, and the Queen told him that she would provide him with some locations. He asked her to give him to Keelan instead, since he was better with maps. As the meeting drew to a close, Sean told the Saltburn Queen about some of her interactions with the Luminous, and she seemed as concerned as Sean about the fact that some of their actions seemed to be contradicting others. They clearly had plans, but nobody quite knew what those plans were. The Queen told the group that they didn't have to make any decisions then and there, and they just needed to let her know once they knew where they were going. The meeting was clearly over, and Sean got up. She very pointedly looked at Keelan and Tornak to imply that they needed to get up as well, since they'd missed the cues earlier. At that moment, there was a scream elsewhere in the castle. Then, like a puppet with strings cut, Sean collapsed. Things seemed to explode into action a moment later. One of the guards came running in to say they'd found the body of the woman who poured tea, and whoever had slit her throat had cut her face off. Then he saw Sean unconscious on the floor. Yuri started pumping a tiny bit of healing into Sean every time she went unconscious, bringing her back up so she could heal herself as much as possible. It was a never-ending cycle, as whatever was poisoning her kept happening. She recognized that whatever was causing the damage seemed to be radiant in nature. Tornak rushed out of the room to try to find the assassin. She had disappeared, but there was an open window. He cast Fly on himself and flew out looking for her, but didn't see anything. He then cast Detect Thoughts to try to find her that way. Taria ran out as well, sending a message to her father to let him know what happened. In the room, Keelan worked to try to create a potion to heal Sean, as the Queen called for her own alchemist. They realized it was a poison called Hallowglow, and the Queen's alchemist knew of no way to cure it. Keelan thought he could manage it, though, and he was able to create a potion that stopped the constant stream of damage to Sean's body. Unfortunately, Sean immediately became extremely exhausted, to the point where her body shut down. and she died for the second time in less than a week. After a quick back and forth over whether Yuri, Keelan, or Thalrizian should try to resurrect her, Yuri agreed to try. He was able to succeed, although she was very exhausted about coming back to life. Taria and Tornak found 2 silver coins and a note saying that Sean had another 7 days reprieve if she survived. Taria noticed that the coins were magical and glowing of divination magic. Everyone gathered back at the palace, and Keelan carried Sean off to bed. She was very weak, and it was clear that it was going to take several days before she was back to normal. She asked Keelan to try to find some diamond dust if he could. The group, minus Sean, talked a bit about what they found out from the Queen. They needed to figure out whether it was more important to go to the Clear Peak province or the Aetherglen province next. Plus, they wanted to visit some of the waystones that the Queen had told them about. Taria brought up the fact that the silver coins that the twin silvers had left were magical, and Keelan took a look at them. They realized that they could be used for scrying purposes and were sent to Sean. Sean kept the coins she had from the first attempt to take a closer look at them and try to figure out how they worked, while she let the others take the other set in case they ever needed to try to find her. After a while, 3 gruff-looking people showed up and told the group that they'd been asked by the Saltborn Queen to come help work on their ship while they were on the island. Tornak immediately read their minds to ensure they were who they said they were, and upon realizing they were, told the group they were safe. They spoke with Atalia about possible upgrades to their ships, since she was more familiar with that type of ship than they were, and she went through what she knew was available. The group then settled in to discuss which one to focus on during their downtime. And that is where we left off.